My wife is divorcing me and going on vacation with her lover, thinking she still has a share of my trust fund. But what's waiting for her when she returns are lawsuits and jail time. Hi, I'm Aaron, a 28-year-old man. Let me try to tell the whole story here. All my life, I've known that my friends were only around because, to them, I was the trust fund kid. There were always people trying to get close to me, assuming I'd throw extravagant parties worldwide or cover the bar tab at every event. When they realized they wouldn't get what they expected, they'd leave. It's true. My parents set up a significant trust fund for me, but I know how hard they worked to build that wealth. It didn't happen overnight, and one mistake could destroy everything. So, I work hard every day to expand on what my father started. Recently, though, I came dangerously close to making that mistake. And that mistake is my wife, Ashley, also 28 years old. In college, I never dated. I wasn't the type to have casual flings. I always wanted to date someone with the intention of marriage. But once word about my family's wealth spread, I attracted the wrong crowd. When you have money, people want to latch onto you. I loaned money to friends and paid for drinks at parties, but nothing extravagant. I believed that moderation was fine because you also need to be part of society. I tried to get along with everyone, but I rarely trusted anyone. Then, at my graduation party, I met Ashley. She didn't seem to know who I was, and we hit it off immediately. We exchanged numbers, and for our first date, I took her to McDonald's. It wasn't fancy, but we had the best time. She didn't mind the simplicity, and I fell in love. Ashley was my first love. She wasn't trying to impress me. She was just herself. She was smart, funny, and made me feel normal, like she saw beyond my money. A month into dating, I introduced her to my parents. She didn't seem surprised by their wealth, which I saw as a good sign, thinking it didn't matter to her. Little did I know, she probably wasn't surprised, because she already knew who I was. Winning me over was part of her carefully laid out plan. Ashley charmed my parents during their first meeting. She was polite and elegant. I was smitten. She was the first girl I brought home, and my parents were thrilled. We dated for a year, during which she never accepted expensive gifts. Her reason? We're not married yet. After a year, I proposed. She won over my parents completely, even telling them she wanted to continue working after marriage to help grow our fortune. My mom hugged her, thrilled that I'd found such a supportive partner. Ashley worked in tech and earned a decent income herself. On our second anniversary, my parents hosted a party and announced they wanted to add Ashley as a beneficiary of the trust fund alongside me. They introduced her to everyone, including Bob, the accountant who managed the trust. Bob was married with a daughter. His wife was a lawyer at the same firm. Everything was done legally, and Ashley became an official beneficiary. Ashley built a great rapport with my parents and kept them happy. She traveled frequently for work, which I later learned was often with Bob, her lover. Looking back, I remember her talking to Bob at parties, laughing and blushing over wine. But I was blind, stupidly in love, and never suspected a thing. For 7 years, Ashley played the perfect wife. Then, tragedy struck. My parents passed away 6 months apart. Grieving, I threw myself into work, struggling to keep the business afloat and cope with my emotions. During this time, Ashley began showing her true colors. After the funeral, she was distant. I thought she was grieving in her own way and gave her space, but she never asked how I was doing or mentioned my parents' passing. It felt strange, but I blamed myself for not opening up to her. 2 weeks later, I decided to leave work early to talk to her. I bought pink roses on the way home. Unlocking the door, I was stunned to find Bob standing in my living room. Confused, I asked if he was there to discuss trust fund matters. Ashley appeared with 2 suitcases. Bob had 2 as well. She looked at me and said, "Oh, I wanted to do this quietly. I was going to leave you a note, but I guess we'll have to do this face to face. I'm leaving." Yes, you heard me. I'm moving in with Bob. After our vacation in Italy, we'll finalize the divorce. Your parents made sure I'd have enough money to live comfortably. Don't make that sad puppy face. Are those flowers for me? I'll take them. Bye. And just like that, she was gone. My wife of 7 years left me. They drove off before I could say a word. For 2 days, I didn't leave the house. I kept the blinds closed, survived on leftover food and instant noodles, and never turned off the TV to avoid the silence. On the 3rd day, someone rang the doorbell. I ignored it, thinking they'd leave, but they didn't. The ringing grew louder and more persistent. Then, knocking, followed by a woman's voice shouting, "I know you're in there! Open up! I'm not leaving until we talk!" For a moment, I thought it was Ashley. But then I remembered she was in Italy. The thought made me sink deeper into despair. Still, the noise wouldn't stop. Dragging myself out of bed, I opened the door to find a red-haired woman in a sharp 2-piece suit. She looked furious. "Your wife ran off with my husband. Sitting here like a mess won't fix anything. Get up, shower, and meet me in the living room in 15 minutes. We have a lot to discuss." When I didn't respond, she barged in, wrinkling her nose as she said, "You reek." Then she added, "And don't call me Mom." I heard that. Despite myself, I laughed. It was the first time in days I felt even a little human. After my shower, I returned to the living room to find it spotless. The kitchen was immaculate, too. Sandra, Bob's wife, introduced herself. She explained how she had been trying to contact me at my office for the last 2 days, but couldn't reach me, so she decided to show up at my door. She was determined and clearly had something important to say. I couldn't believe what she told me. Sandra revealed that, like me, she had no idea her husband was cheating until he abruptly left their house 2 days ago, claiming he'd send someone to collect his things. Her world had also fallen apart, but instead of wallowing in sadness, she took action. The first thing Sandra did was check Bob's computer. He used it mainly for work, but his Facebook account was still open. Wasting no time, she went through his messages and uncovered the affair. Once she was certain, she began digging deeper. That's when she found evidence of Bob siphoning money from my trust fund. Bob had started with small amounts, which went unnoticed, but over time he became bold and careless. He wasn't working alone. He had help from one of the beneficiaries. That beneficiary was none other than Ashley. Part of me wanted Sandra to be wrong, but she wasn't. She had all the evidence and was ready to confront them. I hesitated, still doubting the full extent of the betrayal, but Sandra said something that struck me. "I have a young daughter. I'm going to squeeze every penny out of Bob and destroy Ashley completely. I don't care what you do, but I thought you should know." Her determination and confidence were undeniable, and I instantly knew I could trust her. So, I agreed to join her. We shook hands. While my ex-wife was vacationing in Italy, Sandra and I were devising a plan that would cost her dearly. When Ashley and Bob returned from their 10-day trip, Sandra and I were ready for their reactions. On Monday, I was at work when Ashley called me. The moment I answered, she started yelling. "What the hell is going on? Bob says we're in trouble, and where's my money?" I calmly replied, "You mean the money my parents worked hard to earn? The money Bob was using to buy you gifts and probably pay for that apartment you moved into? You might want to talk to my lawyer, Sandra. You know Bob's wife? She works at the same firm." Before she could say another word, I told her I had to go and hung up. That evening, Ashley was waiting outside my workplace. I ignored her and walked toward my car, but she blocked my path. In all the years I'd known her, I'd never seen her so frantic. She begged me to explain what was happening, claiming that Bob's version didn't make sense and she needed to hear it from me. I looked her in the eye and said, "I've heard from your lawyer about your divorce filing. Just so you know, you're not getting a single cent." Her face turned pale. She clearly never imagined this outcome. I could see the panic building inside her. Part of me felt a twisted satisfaction, but it was quickly overshadowed by guilt. Despite everything, I still loved her, and it hurt to see her suffer. I walked past her and headed to my car. She screamed after me, begging me to stop. The last thing I heard before getting in was, "How could you do this to me?" It felt like a stab to the heart. I wanted to shout back, "How could you do this to me?" But instead, I started the car and drove away, glancing in the rearview mirror to see her standing there, completely stunned. Meanwhile, Bob was served with notice that he would be fired from the company. His actions had tarnished the firm's reputation, and clients were calling to terminate their contracts. The company's best move to mitigate the damage was to let him go. Sandra, with her many connections in the legal world, hired the best lawyer and was confident she'd win her case and gain custody of her daughter. She kept me updated throughout the week, and with every call, I felt a little lighter. When I got home that night, I sat down to write this. My interaction with Ashley left me uneasy, and I needed to vent. Do you think I'm being too harsh on her? Am I the bad guy here? Update 1. Hi everyone. I'm back with another update. It's been a week and I just want to thank all of you for your support and advice when I felt so lost. I had my first therapy session and shared this Reddit post with my therapist. They told me it's a healthy way to process everything and assured me it's normal to grieve the person I thought I lost. In this case, Ashley. It's okay to feel overwhelmed after dropping such a massive bombshell. As for what's happened this week, I'll summarize. Ashley called me again, and this time her tone was softer. Her voice sounded hoarse, like she'd been crying. She asked if I'd eaten dinner, and when I said no, she offered to come over and cook for me. I was stunned into silence. She took my hesitation as a yes and said she'd be at my place in 30 minutes. I finally found my voice and said, "No, you won't." "Are you joking? After everything you've done, you think you can come here, cook me dinner, and pretend everything's fine?" She replied, "Honey, I know things have been bad, but we can talk." That's when I lost it. I think I yelled, "Bad? You call what you did bad? It was cruel, selfish, and downright evil. I don't want to see your face ever again. What's wrong with you?" What she said next made me want to vomit. She asked me to stop overreacting. That was my breaking point. Up until then, I'd felt guilty about hurting her, but in the moment I saw her true self. A woman who felt no remorse for her actions and would do it all over again without a second thought. That call was a trap, a pathetic attempt to manipulate me. She didn't realize I'd seen through her. She kept insisting I was painting her as a gold digger in the divorce, but that wasn't true because she had a job and made her own money. I wanted to remind her how I'd paid off all her student loans and how her current comfort was thanks to my family's wealth. She claimed she only wanted to talk so we could work things out and that I should drop the lawsuit because it was pointless. I couldn't help but ask, "What about Bob?" She admitted Bob was someone different and she was having an affair with him because he brought some excitement into her monotonous life. Then she started blaming me for being away for work, not being there for her. She claimed her affair with Bob was passionate, something I lacked. Instead of apologizing, I was suing her. At that moment, I was convinced she was just trying to provoke me. I told her that if she had been struggling so much, she could have talked to me, or we could have gone to couples therapy. Cheating was never the solution. She deflected and began insisting on getting back together. I ended the call and immediately called Sandra. I explained everything, and Sandra suggested I invite her over to see what her real intentions were. Sandra also said she'd come by. Following her advice, I called Ashley again. She sounded smug, saying she knew I'd change my mind and would be at my house in half an hour. Before Ashley arrived, Sandra came over. She didn't have time to explain her plan, but asked me to make sure Ashley sat in the dining room. Sandra said she'd make a special appearance in this drama. Ashley arrived about 40 minutes later, clearly making an effort to look good. and she did. She walked in, kissed me, and headed straight for the bedroom where Sandra was waiting. I stopped her and asked her to sit in the dining room. She pouted and said, "Why, love? Have I lost you so easily? Is your love that weak? Won't you fight for us, darling?" Just then, Sandra stepped out of the bedroom. Ashley was too stunned to speak and finally muttered, "What the hell?" Sandra smiled and said, "Finally, we meet. The woman who's been with my useless husband, Bob, the cheater. And yes, Ashley, you've lost your right to the bedroom." Ashley turned to me, furious. "How could you replace me so easily? Sleeping with Bob's wife after taking away all my happiness. We had so much debt, and now we're not even getting the damn trust fund money. And God knows who leaked the news, but now Bob is unemployed, and I might get fired too. You're so selfish." Sandra intervened, saying, "What do you mean by, we had debts? Was it some joint scam? Were you helping Bob embezzle funds or what?" Ashley screamed, "Of course I was. I've supported Bob from day one. Do you think he could have planned something like this on his own? Obviously, I helped him. Unlike you, you witch who's been nothing but condescending to him. That's why he chose me over you. Now get out. How dare you even be here when your husband is unemployed? Why won't you give a statement to help him?" Sandra sweetly smiled at Ashley and then turned to me, saying, "I think it's time to send Ashley home. The job's done." I got the signal and opened the door for Ashley to leave. She stormed out, hurling insults at us. Once she was gone, I turned to Sandra and asked, "What just happened?" Sandra turned off a recorder, winked, and said excitedly, "We have a confession, Aaron. We're going to ruin them. I told you, I'm not letting either of them get away with this." Sandra is brilliant and relentless. If I were Ashley or Bob, I'd be terrified of her. She's just too good at what she does. Before leaving, Sandra confessed that she was the one who leaked the news about Bob. I told her brilliance was rubbing off on me because I'd already figured that out. Update 2. Sandra sent the recording of Ashley's confession to her company, along with a detailed explanation of what was happening. The note emphasized that someone capable of such deceit couldn't be trusted at work and might embezzle funds if given the chance. Sandra also knew one of Ashley's company's business partners, an old friend of hers. That friend abruptly pulled out of a deal they were about to sponsor, citing concerns about the credibility of certain team members. Ashley's boss was blindsided by the news and made a swift decision to salvage the deal. Ashley was fired on the spot. Now both Ashley and Bob are unemployed and drowning in debt. Bob has been calling Sandra nonstop. When she didn't answer, he started sending her messages, which she ignored before blocking him. Update 3. Bob showed up drunk at Sandra's house early this morning, ringing the doorbell nonstop and hurling insults. Security cameras recorded everything. When Sandra asked him to leave, he tried to force his way in, stopping only when she threatened to call the police. Unfortunately, all the commotion woke up Emily, Sandra, and Bob's young daughter. The poor girl is now traumatized and hasn't left her room since. Sandra asked me to stay with Emily while she went to file a restraining order. Emily, a sweet little girl, was hiding under her bed, terrified. She asked if I was her dad's friend and if Bob had sent me. I reassured her that I was her mom's friend, not her dad's. She relaxed slightly, but kept glancing toward the window, asking if her dad had gone. I promised her he was gone and coaxed her to eat something. Sandra returned to find Emily asleep on my chest. When I left, Emily clung to my legs, begging me not to go. I stayed the night and both Emily and I finally slept peacefully. Update 4. The first hearing is done, and things are looking bad for Ashley and Bob. Sandra believes they won't escape prison time. Meanwhile, Bob has taken a job as a janitor, and Ashley is jobless. Outside the courthouse, we saw Bob being beaten up by loan sharks. Things look grim for him. When he saw Sandra outside the courthouse, he ran to her, dropped to his knees, and begged her to take him back. But by now, he should know that's never going to happen. Sandra's lawyer told us the case is so strongly in her favor that Bob likely won't even get visitation rights. Update 5. Here I am with another update. Despite Sandra's prediction that the process would only take 6 months, she was slightly off. She estimated half a year, but it ended up taking just over 7 months. 7 months and a week, to be precise. So, technically, she wasn't far off. In any case, compared to typical court timelines, this was surprisingly fast. The result? Everything we expected, and more. Ashley and Bob received exemplary sentences. It's not that I enjoy seeing someone behind bars, but when you've been betrayed, manipulated, and forced to endure so much garbage from people you trusted, seeing them finally get what they deserve feels like justice. A bitter yet satisfying justice, like a strong coffee after a sleepless night. Ashley, who once seemed to have everything under control, living in her luxury bubble, thinking her charm could get her out of anything, is now facing a completely different reality. No more trips to Europe. No more romantic dinners at fancy restaurants. No more designer handbags flaunted with pride. Instead, she must deal with the harsh reality of prison, a world that couldn't be further from her previous life. As for love, let's just say the romantic options in her new environment won't resemble anything she's used to. Bob's situation is arguably worse. He still owes a lot of money to those loan sharks, and we're not talking about banks or legal financial institutions. These are people who don't hesitate to use any means necessary to collect what they're owed. The scariest part? These types of people often have connections inside prison. If I were him, I'd be terrified. But fortunately, I'm not Bob. I'm just a spectator, watching this unfold with popcorn in hand. For clarity, no, Bob didn't get custody of his daughter. That was a given, but it's worth stating. After everything he's done, the court wouldn't allow him near his daughter, at least not unsupervised. Emily, Sandra, and Bob's daughter has shown incredible resilience for someone her age. It's heartbreaking to see a child face so much confusion and chaos so young. Sandra, of course, has been an amazing mother, doing everything possible to shield Emily from the weight of what's happening. I've tried to help where I can, though some days I question whether I'm making a real difference. Still, Emily trusts me, and that's more than I could have hoped for. The trial itself was almost theatrical. The judge didn't take long to grasp the full picture. Even though both of their lawyers tried to discredit the evidence, it was futile. The verdict was clear, and while appeals are always a possibility in cases like this, they won't change much. Sandra is confident both Ashley and Bob will spend significant time behind bars, and I believe her. On a personal note, many of you have suggested Sandra and I get tested for STDs. Well, as expected, we did. Sandra, being her cautious and intelligent self, insisted we couldn't be too careful. Thankfully, everything came back clear. After everything we've endured, a little relief is welcome. For those wondering if Sandra and I are together, the answer is no. And no. It's not because there's no connection between us. After everything we've gone through together, it's obvious there's some kind of bond. But jumping from one toxic relationship into another, or starting something new while still dealing with the fallout of our ex-partners, wouldn't be wise. Right now, we're just good friends. Sandra is someone I trust deeply, but starting a romantic relationship with someone who reminds us both of this nightmare isn't on our priority list. For now, that's where things stand. Ashley and Bob are stuck in a situation with no easy way out. Even if they somehow get out of prison early, they'll still be marked by debt, betrayal, and public humiliation. Meanwhile, Sandra and I are moving forward. She's focused on being an incredible mom to Emily, and I'm working on piecing my life back together after all this chaos. That's all I have for now.